This is Greg for Teslafaninsight. Thanks for joining us again. Today, we're focused on the fact that it just came in that China registration from the government came in at, I think, 3,600 vehicles, which is obviously lower than, that's for April. The March number was listed at 10,400 vehicles, I believe. So as a result, the stock price is down this morning, and we wanted to kind of take a look at some data related to this. So the first thing I wanted to review, just a reminder, I want to thank you for being a Patreon supporter. Hence, you get our trade blasts. Greatly appreciated. We look forward to providing useful information in your process of investing / trading in Tesla. So after I saw that number this morning, and the fact that the stock was down $27 this morning at 4 a.m., the first thought that came to mind, I was like, man, if I had the cash like our biggest trader, I'd buy 1,000 shares right away. And the reason I say that is that the number is what it is, but I feel like it's fairly thin. And what I mean by that is that I wanted to provide several data points, I think, that contextualize sort of how and what that number should be. The first item is that the Chinese are actually expanding the factory. It's my belief that the Chinese government / the banks have a look at the back orders that Tesla has for all types of vehicles out of that factory, hence the willingness to provide the $540 million revolving line that they just provided. The second thing that came to mind was, in terms of all these data points, is that Rolls-Royce sold 0 cars in China in March. And so I thought this was very interesting. The reason is that obviously Rolls is a great car, very expensive, and people love it, particularly if you're at the high end and you're wealthy. The problem that comes up for that vehicle, though, is it doesn't have biohazard mode that the Model X and S have. So if you're in a situation where the disease may be airborne, for luxury, you want the Rolls. But for biohazard issues, you want to have multiple Teslas in your fleet for you and your family members at the high end. So therefore, we could go on with other data points that are out there, but the general idea is that Tesla has said that their backlog is strong. I would, as I shared, drop out the sales related to the Cybertruck because it doesn't exist yet, even though there is a backlog created partially by it. And then we look at sort of numbers that spin off of this, and I don't think it makes sense. After I talked with one of my trade buddies about it, so the down for the stock sort of retreated from down as much as $27 a share down to $7.90, kind of pulled back up into the 802. Just before I came on, it was about $7.99 a share. It's my belief we're in an interesting zone right now for Tesla, which is that according to the county of Alameda, somewhere between Thursday and the 18th of the month, they're going to allow the factory to reopen. So one of the things that's going on right now is the analysts are doing calculations to figure out how much more revenue and profit Tesla will generate for the quarter if, in fact, the opening schedule that was presented actually happens. So, I think one of the ways to illustrate the point is one of our trade group members asked a question about, kind of how do we contextualize everything Tesla is doing right now? For example, there's a question mark out there as to how do you deal with the fact that Tesla is suing, right? So the attorneys they're using theoretically are $1,000 an hour. Call it $1,500 on an average, maybe $1,200 an hour for those people to file a suit and then fees and all that. And so, 5, 10 people, you can guess the math. So let's say you spend $1 million in legal fees over a week, week and a half, maybe it's $1.5 million. Well, that number contrasts with some other numbers. For example, the cost to have the factory idle on a monthly basis is $30 million or $10 million a day. Number one. Number two, for every day of production you pick up, it works out to about 1,000 vehicles a day, maybe 1,100, times an average of $57,000 per vehicle, or $59 million a day. So if you spend $1 million in legal fees and you pick up 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 days of production times $57 million a day, the ratio of cost of legal fees against number of vehicles you've now able to sell makes it extremely worthwhile to spend the legal fees and go through the hassles of trying to get the plant back open again as soon as you can. So I would say that the approach being used makes sense. We're actually going to work to bring on our legal expert once again, because we kind of talked this morning further about the case that Tesla has, and the due process component of the argument that we presented to you, he thinks actually bears more evaluation because those grounds are rather solid. So we will ask him to come back on and sort of dive further into this discussion so that we can really drive the point home of the potential viability of the lawsuit being filed by Tesla. He gave me a caveat this morning that I thought was interesting, which was that it's likely that Tesla's attorneys will be in first thing in the morning to meet with the judge to review their case. But the other thing he shared with me is that it would be unlikely for the county to have their lawyers there this morning. And the reason is that they could reasonably argue that they needed time to review the documents before having to address them. And so in theory, we shouldn't see a hearing or any movement for Tesla's factory plans for another day or two, because that's enough time that could be reasonably demanded by the Alameda County attorneys to address this matter. So we were kind of eager to find out what was going to happen today. I obviously will keep an eye out to see if there's new filings by Tesla so we can better understand the basis for their argument. And eagerly we're waiting on the TRO to show up, and we'll update you on that as it becomes available. So my assessment today is that the number we got from China I think is a little thin for the reasons stated. It's valid for the price to be down, but I really think that we have a tsunami of really good possibilities rolling in for Tesla related to an early restart of production in Fremont, and then the impact of those Fremont on all their numbers, we think is pretty powerful. So I want to thank you for taking time out for our trade blast today. As usual, we try to add in some after the shows over items that might be useful. So today's I want to introduce you to is something called a foam roller. So as you can see on the pictures there, in essence, you can do exercises with it, sort of stretching the front of your body as well as laying on the roller and rolling on it to stretch out your back as well as your shoulders, the glutes, and the lower back of your legs as well. So we're making a money-back guarantee offer. So if you buy one from Amazon, they start at around $9. This one I think is like $12. And so if you get it and you try it out, you have a bunch of pictures and there's a bunch of online YouTube show you how to use it, and you don't like it, we'll make it a double your money back guarantee, where instead of your $10 back from Amazon, you get an extra 10. And so you can hit us up for that. I think you'll be very happy with it. I actually use it every day. I injured my back and with actually a massager, and went to the physical therapist, and that's how I learned about it. And she showed me exercises to use for me, and it worked great. And so I can't recommend it enough. And I think you'll find benefit from it as well. One last item I wanted to note is this is my first effort at making what's called Jamaican ginger beer. So I took about a half pound of ginger. I actually just sliced it up small. You're supposed to evidently throw it in the food processor, which I didn't do because I don't have one. But I chopped it up small. And what you're supposed to do is get water to a boiling temperature and then pour it into this, and then let it sit for a half hour. And now you have ginger beer. So if you want to make a Moscow Mule, you can add sugar or lemon to your taste, along with some vodka possibly. There's also a version of it that you let sit overnight, and it actually will ferment, and you kind of get the carbonated / perhaps alcoholinated type of ginger beer as well. So I recommend you consider that also. Actually, I like it as is. I did it wrong because the way I did it was I just poured the ginger in, put water over the top, maybe 8 or 10 cups, and then I brought it to a boil for 15 minutes. And it's very powerful. I think it tastes fine, and it's herbal, medicinal in a lot. And so in Jamaican cooking, ginger is everywhere, and it's very much appreciated. So, any rate, I want to thank you again for joining our Trade Blast for today. This is Greg for Teslafaninsight. Don't forget the 25 leg lifts, which I'm going to do next. I should have done it before I stretched out, as well as no more than once a week fried foods. The 5-2 diet or some other fasting diet might be a good suggestion. And, a little weightlifting wouldn't be bad for bone density. This is Greg for Teslafaninsight once again. Tschüss, macht's gut, au revoir, lahitrot, choda hafez, hey do, zdravstvuyte, hello in Russian, ni hao ma, hello in Chinese. In Jamaica, we say, no respect, walk good man, and do widzenia. Thanks and bye for now.